The British royal family has survived for over 1,000 years. Wars, revolutions, political upheavals, nothing has managed to bring down the monarchy. But there have been moments when the family came dangerously close to destroying itself. Some of these scandals you'll remember. Others have been quietly buried by the palace. But each one shook the institution to its core and changed the royal family forever. Let's look at every major scandal that nearly brought down the House of Windsor. The War of the Waleses. In 1981, the world watched as Prince Charles, the eldest son of Queen Elizabeth II and the man who would one day become King of England, married a shy 20-year-old kindergarten teacher named Diana Spencer. It was billed as the wedding of the century. 750 million people tuned in to watch the ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral. Diana's dress, with its 25-foot train, became the most famous wedding gown in history. The couple waved from the Buckingham Palace balcony and kissed for the cameras. It looked like a fairy tale. It was anything but. What the public didn't know was that Charles was in love with someone else, and had been for years. Her name was Camilla Parker Bowles, a woman he dated before joining the Royal Navy in the early 1970s. By the time he returned from service, Camilla had married another man, but their feelings for each other never went away. Even as Charles courted Diana, even as he proposed, even as he stood at the altar, Camilla was the woman he wanted. The marriage was doomed before it began. By the time Diana gave birth to Prince William in 1982, she knew her husband was in love with another woman. The marriage deteriorated rapidly, with both parties eventually engaging in extramarital affairs. Diana with cavalry officer James Hewitt, Charles with Camilla. The true extent of the deception became public in 1992, when Andrew Morton published his biography of Diana. Though presented as the work of interviews with Diana's friends, it was later revealed that Diana herself had secretly recorded hours of testimony, detailing Charles's affair and her own struggles with bulimia and self-harm. The book portrayed Diana as a victim and Charles as cold and unfaithful. It was devastating for the palace, but the worst was yet to come. In January 1993, transcripts of a secretly recorded phone call between Charles and Camilla were published in the British press. The call, which had taken place in December 1989, featured the couple engaged in intimate conversation, including Charles joking that he wanted to be reincarnated as one of Camilla's tampons. The scandal became known as Tampongate. The backlash was immediate and brutal. A poll found that 68% of respondents believed Charles had damaged his reputation, and 42% thought Prince William should succeed the Queen rather than his father. Charles's suitability to be king was openly questioned. Camilla was vilified as the woman who had destroyed the people's princess. Then came Diana's counterstrike. In November 1995, she sat down with BBC journalist Martin Bashir for what would become the most watched interview in British television history. Nearly 23 million viewers in the UK tuned in to watch Diana speak candidly about her marriage, her mental health struggles, and her husband's infidelity. It was during this interview that she delivered her most famous line. There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded. Diana admitted to her own affair with James Hewitt. She questioned whether Charles was suited to be king, and she expressed doubt that she would ever be queen herself, saying instead that she wanted to be a queen of people's hearts. The interview was a direct challenge to the palace, and it worked. Public sympathy for Diana surged. Within weeks, Queen Elizabeth wrote to both Charles and Diana, advising them to divorce. Their separation was finalized in 1996. The interview's legacy became even more controversial decades later. In 2021, an independent inquiry revealed that Bashir had used forged bank statements to gain access to Diana's brother and ultimately convinced Diana to participate. Prince William called the interview a major contribution to making my parents' relationship worse and said it should never be aired again. The BBC agreed, vowing never to broadcast it or license it to other networks. For years after, Charles's path to the throne seemed uncertain. It would take decades of careful rehabilitation before public opinion shifted enough for him to marry Camilla in 2005, and even longer before she was accepted as Queen Consort. The toe-sucking photos. In 1986, Prince Andrew, Queen Elizabeth's second son, married Sarah Ferguson in a lavish ceremony at Westminster Abbey. 500 million people watched worldwide. Sarah, known as Fergie, was fun, approachable, and a breath of fresh air compared to the more reserved Diana. The public adored her, but the marriage struggled almost immediately. Andrew was a naval officer, and his career kept him away for months at a time. The couple spent so little time together that cracks began to show within years. By early 1992, they announced their separation, though they were still legally married. Then came the photographs that changed everything. In August 1992, the Daily Mirror paid a reported sum to publish images of Sarah sunbathing topless at a villa in the south of France while a man appeared to kiss her feet. That man was John Bryan, her American financial advisor, whom she had been seeing since her separation from Andrew. The images showed Bryan with his mouth on Sarah's toes, a detail that would define her for decades and spawn countless tabloid headlines. Even worse, Sarah's young daughters, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, aged 4 and 2, were present during the holiday. The timing couldn't have been worse. Sarah was at Balmoral with the rest of the royal family, including the Queen, Prince Philip, Charles, Diana, and Andrew himself, when the story broke. She later wrote that the photographs reached the breakfast table that morning, and that Prince Philip picked up the newspaper, looked at the images, and walked out without saying a word. The silence was devastating. The Queen was reportedly furious. Sarah was immediately asked to leave the Scottish estate and return to London. Bryan later insisted he wasn't sucking her toes, but merely kissing them, as if this distinction somehow made it better. Sarah herself has maintained that she and Bryan were playing Cinderella with her daughters, and that the scene was entirely innocent, misinterpreted by a photographer with a telephoto lens. But the damage was done. The scandal cemented Sarah's reputation as someone who had brought embarrassment to the royal family. The couple's divorce was finalized in 1996. While Sarah remained remarkably close with Andrew, even continuing to live with him at Royal Lodge, her relationship with other members of the royal family was effectively destroyed for years. It would take decades before she was fully welcomed back into the fold. The Epstein connection. Prince Andrew is Queen Elizabeth's second son, the younger brother of King Charles. In his younger years, he was known as a war hero who flew helicopters in the Falklands War, and later as a playboy prince the tabloids nicknamed Randy Andy. But none of that would matter compared to what came next. In 1999, Andrew befriended Jeffrey Epstein, an American financier who moved in elite circles despite murky origins of his wealth. Epstein's then-girlfriend, British socialite Ghislaine Maxwell, made the introduction. Andrew became a frequent guest at Epstein's various properties, his Manhattan townhouse, his Palm Beach estate, and his private Caribbean island. The friendship continued even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor for prostitution. Most damaging of all, Andrew was photographed walking with Epstein in Central Park in 2010, after Epstein's release from prison, a meeting Andrew would later call a mistake. In 2019, Virginia Giuffre publicly alleged that she had been trafficked by Epstein and subjected to abuse by Andrew on 3 occasions when she was 17. Once at Maxwell's London townhouse, once at Epstein's Manhattan residence, and once on Epstein's private island. A photograph of Andrew with his arm around Giuffre's bare waist, taken at Maxwell's home, became central to the story and impossible to explain away. Andrew's attempt at damage control made everything catastrophically worse. In a November 2019 BBC interview with journalist Emily Maitlis, Andrew gave responses that were immediately ridiculed. He claimed he had no memory of meeting Giuffre and couldn't have been with her on one alleged occasion because he was at a Pizza Express in Wokings celebrating his daughter's birthday. He said he couldn't have been sweating profusely as Giuffre described because he had a medical condition that prevented him from sweating, a result, he claimed, of adrenaline from being shot at during the Falklands War. He described himself as "papuszo," too honourable to have behaved improperly, and he expressed no sympathy whatsoever for Epstein's victims. The interview was described as a car crash, nuclear explosion level bad, and the worst royal PR disaster since Diana's death. Within days, Andrew stepped back from public duties indefinitely. In 2022, he settled Giuffre's civil lawsuit for an undisclosed sum, believed to be around £12 million, while admitting no wrongdoing. But the scandal refused to die. In October 2025, after the publication of Giuffre's posthumous memoir containing fresh allegations, King Charles formally stripped Andrew of all his royal titles, including Duke of York and Prince. He is now known simply as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has been evicted from Royal Lodge, and has been asked to testify before the US House Oversight Committee about his relationship with Epstein. He has so far refused to respond. The secret love child. Princess Anne is Queen Elizabeth's only daughter, and widely considered the hardest working member of the royal family. She's known for her no-nonsense attitude and her lifelong passion for horses. But in 1992, her first marriage ended in a scandal that dominated headlines. In 1973, Anne married Captain Mark Phillips, a fellow equestrian and Olympic gold medalist. The wedding at Westminster Abbey was watched by 500 million people. The couple had 2 children, Peter, born in 1977, and Zara, born in 1981. But the marriage struggled, and by the late 1980s, both were rumoured to be involved with other people. Anne was romantically linked with Commander Timothy Lawrence, one of the Queen's equerries. In 1989, stolen letters from Lawrence to Anne were leaked to the press, confirming their relationship while Anne was still technically married. But the final straw came from Phillips's side. In 1991, it was confirmed through DNA testing that Phillips had fathered a daughter, Felicity, with a New Zealand art teacher named Heather Tonkin. The child had been born in 1985, while Phillips was still married to Anne and living on her estate at Gatcombe Park. Phillips had been secretly paying Tonkin for years to keep the matter quiet. Anne filed for divorce immediately. The proceedings were finalised in April 1992 in less than 5 minutes. She married Timothy Lawrence later that year, and they remain together today. Phillips, meanwhile, remarried and divorced again, and has never publicly acknowledged Felicity as his daughter. Harry's costume. Prince Harry is the younger son of King Charles and the late Princess Diana, and for most of his life, he was known as the spare to his brother William's heir. Where William was groomed to be king, Harry was the rebellious one, the party prince, the one who got into trouble. In January 2005, that reputation hit a new low. Photographs emerged of the 20-year-old prince at a costume party wearing an Africa Corps uniform from World War II, complete with a swastika armband. The images appeared on newspaper front pages and sparked immediate outrage across Britain and around the world. The party's theme had been natives and colonials, already questionable, and Harry had chosen what he later called a sand-coloured uniform. He has since said that he consulted his brother William and William's then-girlfriend Catherine before choosing the costume, and that both encouraged the choice as being more ridiculous than the alternatives. The backlash was severe. Some called for Harry to be barred from entering the military. Jewish groups demanded an apology. Clarence House issued a statement on Harry's behalf expressing regret for any offence caused. Harry has since called the incident one of the biggest mistakes of my life. He met with the chief rabbi of Britain and later travelled to Berlin to speak with a Holocaust survivor. But the scandal followed him for years and became a recurring reference point whenever questions arose about his judgment. The Oprah interview. In 2018, Prince Harry, the younger son of King Charles and Princess Diana, married Meghan Markle, an American actress best known for the TV series Suits. It was seen as a modern fairy tale, a biracial American divorcee marrying into the British royal family. Millions watched their wedding at Windsor Castle, but within 2 years, everything fell apart. Harry and Meghan announced they were stepping back from royal duties in January 20, moving first to Canada and then to California. The British press called it Megxit. The palace was blindsided, and then in March 2021, the couple sat down with Oprah Winfrey for an interview that would shake the monarchy to its core. Over 17 million viewers in the US watched live, with millions more around the world. The revelations were stunning in their directness and their willingness to name the institution, if not specific individuals, as the source of their suffering. Meghan spoke about feeling so isolated and unsupported during her time as a working royal that she struggled with serious mental health crises while pregnant with their first child, Archie. She described going to senior members of the institution and begging for help, only to be told that seeking treatment wouldn't be good for the institution. She revealed that someone in the family, she declined to say who, had expressed concern about what color skin her unborn son might have. Harry confirmed the conversation about Archie's skin color had occurred, but declined to identify who made the comment, saying only that it was not the Queen or Prince Philip. He described feeling trapped within the royal system, comparing his situation to his mother Diana's. He said his family had cut him off financially after they stepped back, and that he and Meghan had been forced to rely on the inheritance left to him by Diana to fund their security and new life in California. Perhaps most damaging to family relations, Harry spoke about his fractured relationship with his father Charles and his brother William. He said Charles had stopped taking his calls at one point, and that his relationship with William was marked by space. The palace's response, issued on behalf of the Queen 2 days later, was remarkably brief, just 61 words. The whole family is saddened to learn the full extent of how challenging the last few years have been for Harry and Meghan. The issues raised, particularly that of race, are concerning. While some recollections may vary, they are taken very seriously and will be addressed by the family privately. The phrase, "some recollections may vary," became instantly famous, a rare public acknowledgement of disagreement within the family, and one that many interpreted as the palace calling Meghan a liar without actually saying so. The interview drew immediate comparisons to Diana's panorama sit-down, and the fallout continues to shape Harry's relationship with his father and brother to this day. What becomes clear, looking at all these scandals, is that the monarchy's survival has never been guaranteed. Affairs, leaked calls, photographs, and lawsuits have repeatedly threatened to bring the institution down. And yet, each time, the family has found ways to adapt, reform, and endure. Some members, like Camilla, were eventually rehabilitated through patience and careful public relations. Others, like Andrew, were cut loose entirely to protect the institution. And some scandals, like the allegations from Harry and Meghan, remain unresolved, raw wounds that continue to shape the family's relationships. The royal family has survived for this long, not because it has avoided scandal, but because it has learned, sometimes painfully, how to manage it. Whether that resilience will hold through the next crisis remains to be seen. Which of these scandals surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and please like and subscribe to see more like this.